Hey people, how you doing? Welcome to the Sports Therapy Association podcast. It's the 11th of October 2022. My name is Matt Phillips, creator of One Chat Live and host of the Sports Therapy Association podcast. And if you listen to the podcast, then just to let you know, this is recorded live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. So if you do want to join us live and ask questions to our guests, put them on the spot, then all you got to do is head over to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel at 8 o'clock on any Tuesday, and you can network, you can hang out with other soft tissue therapists. You don't have to be a STA member. It's a lovely opportunity for you to see what the STA is all about, because we're normally joined by quite a few of our regional reps across the country. And it's also a chance for you to get your logo up on the screen, because if you do join us and you say something, then I can bring that up on screen. So at the moment I'm now seeing Alistair Cunningham, who has joined us first through the door, who said, "Evening all, in the car listening, Matt," which is making me smile, because I love the idea of affecting people's lives in that way. They're driving home, and instead of listening to Chris Rea, they're listening to Matt Phillips, which is great. My life is now complete. So thanks, Alistair, for joining us. Glenn Murphy is also in the live lounge. Good evening, folks. Good evening, Glenn. Brian Huxley has now come through the door. Hi, everyone. Not been able to join you for a while, but back now. It's beautiful. That's the sort of people we get in here. That's the clientele who apologise for not coming last week or a few weeks. That's how we roll. So it's a very friendly place. And I do encourage you, if you're a soft tissue therapist, whether you're a massage therapist, sports therapist, physiotherapist, osteopath, chiropractor, whatever you are, if your role is to help people in pain, then the doors are open to you. And we encourage you to join us. Ivan Ward's here, Becky Carroll's here, great, and so on. So there we go. That's what we do. Last week, if you missed last week was the beginning of the month. And then what we do on the first Tuesday of the month is we have what we call Have Your Say, which is basically where we get people from the STA team to join us live. And then we talk about the last podcasts, September podcasts. We talked about the people we've had in. And we also talk about things that are just going on in the industry. Sometimes one of our STA regional reps has got something they've been doing. For example, last week, Keith Burnett was with us, which is wonderful. Keith is, as well as being, I'm just looking at the region, he's moved back to the Midlands now. So yeah. So as well as being regional rep for the East Midlands now, he's also a bit of a net guru as well. Although I never use that word, but no, I still won't use the word. But he's getting well-earned fame for his doctorate in neck injuries. He's got a huge history in looking after rugby players in particular. And yeah, last week is very interesting, because he's talking about his history, basically being told by some teacher at school that, know your limits, lad. Do a BTEC, and that's about as far as you should go, because you're not clever enough. And then here he is doing his PhD and kind of supervising other people doing their masters. And it was beautiful last week, because there was this school reunion where he met the teacher who told him, just do a BTEC, mate. You're not going to do better than that. And apparently she said to him, "Oh, I always knew you were going to get something great." And he kind of looked at her and was like, yeah, that's what you said, wasn't it? Which I thought was just beautiful. Plus, you get to see a picture of him with like 700 pounds equipment on his head, testing out cervical movement and stuff and mobility, whilst he wears his new Iron Maiden t-shirt. Brilliant character. Definitely watch last week, if only to see that photo. And you can watch it on YouTube if you want to watch the video, and you can obviously listen to it on any popular podcast app, including Spotify, if you fancy that. And you can see it on the STA website, which is www. What am I talking about? Back to the 90s, which is the sta.co.uk. Glenn Murphy has just asked a question here saying, "Who is the rep for Bradford?" Quick question before you start. Halt the papers. Let's just find out who the rep is for Bradford. I don't know. Someone else in here will tell you, though. I'm sure Leslie is on Google at the moment finding out who the STA rep for Bradford is. So somebody in the audience will tell you, Glenn. If not, I will personally email you. There we go. Keep the questions coming, of course. If you do have something, particularly when I bring my guest in, I'm very excited about tonight. I've just been talking off air. My guest is Sonia Fierro, who's actually third time on the show now. So she's already entering that elite status, along with the likes of Dr. Gary Mendoza, and I think the wonderful Duchess Anna Maria Mazzieri, and other people of the like who have been on the show 3 times. So we're going to be talking about basically Sonia's life. because Sonia recently had a baby who's also joining us. And we're going to be talking about pre and post pregnancy, CrossFit and lifting weights. Sonia has been on the show before. She's a very popular speaker at Therapy Expo. And as always, this month is going to be bringing you speakers from Therapy Expo. Sonia has got 2 presentations on the Thursday at Therapy Expo. So that'll be November the 24th. But most importantly, she's joining us on the Wednesday morning in the STA Theatre to join the roundtable of the Women in Sports Therapy, when they're having a roundtable discussion about being a woman in sports therapy. And that's going to be Dr. Fiona Higgs and Deb Sterlo-Rowley and Duchess Anna Maria Mazzieri. And also joining them will be our guest tonight, Sonia Fierro. I'm going to let Sonia talk about her feats, because otherwise I'm going to be here for another 5 minutes leading her down there. But I will mention that it involves, for example, Italian Deadlift Records, powerlifting, nationally ranked athletic status, working with medical teams from GB fencing, GB diving, swimming, an awful lot. So really lucky and fortunate, if you're listening tonight, to have a guest of this caliber up, and also the fact of what she's been through and is going through. And we're going to talk all about that. It's going to be a fantastic episode. So without further ado, I think I've done all the blurb. I shall now bring up Sonia Fierro. Hello, Sonia Fierro and guest. How are you?
Hi everyone. We are here because, of course, as parents will know, when you organize something, baby won't sleep.
If you listen to podcasts, there's going to be lots of oohs and ahs, and me, I'm just like, I've got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I am living in Broody City. They've got to the age now where they're just not babies anymore, so I'm just like, I'd love the idea of it, and then suddenly common sense comes in. But yeah, if you can't see it, but Sonia is with baby Alia.
Yes.
Alia, exactly, in arms. So if Sonia does suddenly disappear and it all goes quiet her end, then she's got just a card to be able to do that whenever she wants. So really, thanks for joining us, Sonia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me again. Always a pleasure.
So I introduced you a little bit about yourself. I probably didn't say enough, but you've got quite an impressive CV. I don't want to make you feel too big-headed, but you've been involved in sports and different types of sports for a long time. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yeah. Is coming up to 8 years now. I qualified first as a sports therapist in 2014, and I started working in private practice, but with sports as well. The ones that I spent most time with, I was the lead therapist for a rugby club just locally, and then British diving athletes based in London, and then recently British fencing, and also motorsports is something that I've been involved with in the last couple of years. And then, of course, CrossFit, powerlifting, weightlifting, because I've been involved in that as an athlete as well.
Amazing. And you've got your own pod, which I now know thanks to when you came on last time. Where's that? In London, isn't it?
Yes, I do own a CrossFit gym in London. It's called P10 Fitness. We are in Elephant and Castle.
Fantastic. Elephant and Castle, lovely. So obviously, I mean, again, if you're into the podcast, then there's going to be a lot of photos tonight, because Sonia's Instagram account, which is Sonia Recover Strong.
Stronger, yes. Yeah.
Recover Stronger, it's just an amazing account. It's so well put together. I don't know whether you do it yourself or somebody helps you, but it's just beautiful. It's everything my Instagram account is not. It's beautiful, and along with all the other history of advice and lifting and CrossFit and all of amazing stuff, you have kind of shared really nicely and often intimately the journey you've had with little Alia from pre and post.
Yeah.
So we're going to share some of those photos. I'm just interested, were there bits you thought, I'm not going to share this, or were you the sort of like mum who thinks, no, come on, I want to share this because it's something a lot of women go through? And
yeah, so I've actually not shared a lot, and I shared the news quite late in the day, and the main reason is because pre and postnatal is not my specialty, and it's not what I'll be focused focusing moving forward. And I never liked the idea of trainers or even therapists sometimes that suddenly have a baby and everything they post is about that. I don't think is what most people that follow me want to see. They do want to see a little bit of my life and what I do, but not too much of that. So I've posted a little, few snippets here and there. I think it's good for other women to see that training can be done and is healthy, and it shouldn't be scary. But I don't want to portray myself as a specialist.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's very true, actually. And we should say that, just to reiterate, that there is a disclaimer that, yes, Sonia is not giving out medical advice or anything. Obviously, you work with pre and postnatal athletes and recreational athletes, but and nothing you hear tonight is replaced for going to see your own physician and getting checked out properly by a appropriate professional. But we are going to talk about Sonia's experiences, and that will bring up some nice look at it. Every time she picks him up, I'm just going to go, oh yeah. Becky Carroll's already typing as well. There's going to be lots of that tonight. I'm sorry, people. But yeah, so it's more about Sonia's experience and things which she's read and done and experienced, rather than giving you advice. But it will open up some interesting avenues of exploration, I'm sure.
Yes, and if I can add that that's probably the one thing I really kept myself accountable to. I've always said, if I have a baby, I'll make sure that I go get checked and I see specialists. I don't get treatments as often, for myself, but that's something that I was really keen on doing. So throughout my prenatal training, I was working and following a program of somebody that specializes in that. Is Christina Prevet from the Barbell Mamas. She's great. And that's the person that I spoke to come back to training as well. As you'll see, I went back to training really early compared to the usual standards, and this is not something I would advise. But even for myself, I took guidance from somebody that is an expert.
That's really important and necessary to point out, because I'm going to show some photos which looks like it's just you in the gym, and it's not the case at all of you just, I mean, even with the vast experience you've got, you are getting advice from professionals and kind of checking out. So really important thing. Even someone with Sonia's experience realized that, no, I need to ask somebody else to check with some of these things. So I want to bring up a photo, and then I'll leave it on a little bit.
Go for it. Go for the photo.
I think I was trying to find one of the first photos of the bump. Again, if you're watching or you're listening to this, you can't see it going on, but this is you doing, I think, kind of reverse pull-ups or something, or a line.
We call them ring rows in the CrossFit world. So you bring yourself to the rings, and it's an alternative for pull-ups that I wasn't doing anymore at that stage.
Brilliant. Okay, so I should reiterate that when you're looking at this photo, it's not quite clear. People are watching it. You're not about to kind of jump up on those and do something crazy and flip over. So you were supine and holding onto the rings. And what was that? What was the aim of that exercise? You can see, I don't know, how many weeks pregnant were you there? I can't quite work out from the bump.
So there I would have been probably over 30 or around 30. So a ring row is it's like a normal row. It wants to work your back and lats. So your feet are on the ground, and then from there you pull your chest to the rings. So you kind of pull yourself to standing almost.
Fantastic. Okay. And looking at exercise leading up to actual birthday, what were some of the considerations you took into practice? And also, whilst you're saying that, did you become aware of some popular myths which maybe surprised you as to what recommendations are given to women who are prenatal, and limitations on exercise they should and shouldn't be doing?
Oh yeah, I mean, we know that there is a lot of that going around. Women shouldn't lift weights, shouldn't lift more than, it depends, who you ask to, but more than 5 pounds or 10 pounds. And there's not really any research that supports that. And the thing I've always found quite baffling is that if it's not your first kid, you are likely lifting more than that every time you're lifting up your first baby. So telling
So true.
women, pregnant women, not to lift anything substantial never really sat well with me. And I lifted throughout. I was squatting 2 days before giving birth. I was in the gym, I was training. I don't really think, my belief is that there's nothing that you shouldn't really do in terms of activities if you feel well. If your body can manage that, if you know that you have practiced it for a long time and you know what you're doing, of course, there will be modifications that you need to take into consideration. The main one I adopted probably from week 24 to 26 was avoiding hanging off a bar, so no pull-up work. Many women will actually stop that much sooner, but my bum was quite small and I didn't really have much coning going on until then because I've always done quite a lot of core work. So I could do those exercises up to week 24, 26. And then after that, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I stopped those exercises for things like ring rows or variations with my feet on the ground that don't pull as much through the trunk.
It's interesting because obviously, like you say, your experience of exercise will affect what you can do and what your body can take during it. But one of the most common things that I've seen, I did a little Google search just as if I was somebody, and one of the big things was don't start any new type of exercise suddenly. Well, I suppose suddenly, now let me take that out. Don't start any new type of exercise. But
yeah, I do understand where that comes from. And I believe that it's because pregnancy, is already something new for your body. You don't really know how you feel day by day. The first trimester, you will be really fatigued. And then, as the pregnancy goes on, your body will change. You may feel some aches and pains that maybe are new. As your belly grows, you may, your balance or perception may change. So I do understand where that sentiment comes from, but I think that it can be done with guidance. I wouldn't probably advise anyone, or even for myself, want to start something during pregnancy by myself. But if I had a professional following me, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't say that has to be completely avoided.
Yeah, I know you're one for the research. You love your research. And I wonder are you aware of any research which shows that there's a high chance of benefits if you do start some kind of, relevant and suitably progressed strength training
I don't
during
know if there's
pregnancy?
anything specific about starting when you are in pregnancy, but I know there is a literature review or a systematic review that analyze what made women feel better during pregnancy, and the results were exercising water, Pilates exercises, physical activity. So, all the papers show that if people moved and were active throughout pregnancy, they felt better throughout pregnancy. And we know that that's, usually the case even with our chronic pain patients and other populations. So it doesn't surprise me that moving is beneficial even in pregnancy.
That's very interesting because that's often one of the counter arguments to don't massage in the first trimester or something. And there's no literature for it, but there is literature showing that massage can make people feel better. And if anything, the biggest thing maybe that mum's ecosystem and system needs during pregnancy is to feel better. I mean, that's got to have positive benefits for everyone around, isn't it? If she feels better.
It's always, as you just said, it's always costs or risks versus benefit discussion. And I think with pregnancy especially, even research, there's not much research. And one of the reasons is that nobody wants to take the risk of doing research on pregnancy because, of course, if something goes wrong, it's terrible, even more than just on a single person. So there's not much data out there. But at the same time, I don't think that we should use narratives that, tell women that they can't do things, that especially if they feel good and they have been doing it for a long time, or narratives that make them feel weak and and not capable. Because we are resilient. I mean, giving birth is going to be one of the hardest things probably most women will do physically. And I think that exercise is a great way to prepare for that. I think that, part of the reason why my birth was so straightforward and I was up on my feet the same day and walking the day after is because I am fit, probably fitter than, the average person. I do really believe that, and I've seen that with friends as well.
Yeah, it's Becky's coming here. Becky Cowell's coming with a very nice comment about not starting new exercise. I'll bring it up because Becky always comes through with some excellent quotes. So she says, haha, I remember being told not to start any new exercise by my midwife, who then recommended that I went to pregnancy yoga. I was quick to tell her that this was a new type of exercise for me. Oh, yeah. Fascinating, isn't it? It's tricky because that's how narratives exist. I think Tristan Attenborough put on something, one of his very sarcastic memes, but it was just basically saying we do what we're told, we do what we're taught, we do what we're taught, we keep doing what we're taught, and we don't stop to think about what we're actually saying.
Yes,
I think that's the problem with purpose, isn't it? We don't critically assess what we're being taught. If you stop and look, if that person stopped and looked at what you just said, it would be, that's ridiculous.
Exactly. Like pregnancy yoga can be, or yoga in general can be new for a lot of people and can be extremely hard. I cry if I go for a 90 minutes yoga session, even if I love flexibility. We have moms around the area where my CrossFit gym is. I actually started a mom's class when I was pregnant, and then straight after giving birth, I was coaching the classes, and they all said that it's like the only thing we can find is pregnancy yoga, and I don't want to do that because I'm already sitting all day. I don't want to just stretch out. I want to lift. I want to move. I want to feel I can do something, and I'll be able to run after my kid the day that I will walk, and I can lift them. And I think more and more women are realizing that that's important, and they want that.
Very interesting. Yeah, pregnant women don't necessarily want to just lie down and be motionless and feel like they're whales. It's just not how they want to feel. They want to get up and be active and move and feel that their body's strong.
Exactly, especially if they were active, pre-pregnancy. Exactly. There's a lot of people that are runners, and they successfully run until quite late stages of their pregnancy. It's not something that everybody will be able to do. But cycling, CrossFit, weightlifting, there's so many things that you can do, and you have to. Every pregnancy is different. I was probably extremely lucky in how mine went. I know some people are not as lucky, but every person will have a different experience. So you really have to assess for yourself if something is going to benefit you or not. And I think that, of course, we need to listen to the professionals, but we are the ones living in our body and feeling the changes every day. And if some days you feel that you want to do some cardio or lift some weights, why not?
Excellent. Yeah, I love the way you put that. You have spoken at Therapy Expo, and I believe you're speaking again this year on the Thursday about flexibility. It's a passion of yours with Mobility Stick and the other companies and things. But that's another thing I read a few times on Dr. Google, was that women or mums to be should be wary of exercising because of hormonal changes, particularly relaxin, which somehow made you less stable and more open to risk of injury. What have you seen with regards to that?
As far as I know, and what I did a little bit of research on this when I was pregnant, and again, that's a narrative I don't like. Yes, there is more relaxing in your body, but there is no actual research showing that that is going to lead to more injuries, or that is going to make your joints more unstable. I think that is really taking it to the extreme. And it's not a narrative I like. I don't like telling people, oh, you're going to be weak and unstable and you're not going to be able to do things. Try and see. If I had a client or somebody, you know, coming to me saying, oh, I feel this way, then I might think maybe that has something to do with it. But I think that if you're going to feel unstable, is more late pregnancy, and is more because of, you know, systemic changes, but also proprioception changes with your belly growing and your posture changing, and you may feel that you are a bit, you know, you don't feel as coordinated. I remember having to stop doing box jumps, for example, not because I felt like my pelvic floor couldn't handle it, but because I physically felt like I don't know what to do. I don't know how to move, because your center of mass changes. But I'm not aware of anything specific that says you'll be more prone to injuries because
Really
of relaxing itself.
Let's have another look here. I'm just going to move my camera so I can see. I put these in. We're going to look at some other pictures you put on here. This was a great picture. You can't see this again on the podcast, but this is kettlebell swings, and that is you in full action. What a fantastic picture. And with the caption, "You are capable." It's pretty powerful. There's a poster waiting to be made there by somebody. Please don't use that without Sonia's written permission. But yeah, so other exercises you were doing. This is a calm. Let me take that off. I think it was we're looking at week.
I think it was around week 30 something there.
Okay.
I will have to check, but yeah, I would think. Let me see if I can check it quickly for you.
So we had kettlebell swings. I'm just going to move to another photo. We had what looked like.
Yeah, that was January. Yeah, so it was around week 30 there.
And then we had what I think, if I remember the video, was squats and lifts above the head. And
so we call that a wall ball, where you do a squat holding the ball at the front. So it's essentially a goblet squat, and then it's essentially a push press. So as you come up, you'll throw the ball and catch it again.
Fantastic, yeah. And then we had, I love the caption, your body, it was, let me just remember, it's worth going to see this on Instagram, because what I described, you are capable, and there's another caption saying, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So yeah, you're right, you didn't share an awful lot of photos. It wasn't, oh, look at me wearing this, and thank you to the sponsors who've given me this, and headband this, and baby bottle that. It was you doing a few exercises, and just with really short, sharp, sweet captions, just saying, your body is capable, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Really powerful stuff, really good stuff. And then baby was born. Hello, Alia. There you are. Great. We can't see it on the screen, but there's a little bicep getting the guns out there with baby being held in front. And this was 6 months ago. Did you say about that?
So this photo would have been around 6 weeks after she was born. I went to support our members that were competing a competition here in London.
Okay, fantastic. So we're kind of moving now then into post-pregnancy. Let me just move these back to here because my neck's hurting. There we are. So yeah, post-pregnancy. Obviously, this all depends very much, I think, on how the actual birth went. I read a lot that, for example, if you have cesarean birth, then the guidelines change with regards to lifting and activity and what you can expect of your body. But then I read also that only at week 6 should you be contemplating a body weight exercise. Up to then, you're allowed walking for 10 minutes a day, I think they were given, or something like that. And yet we've got a picture of you. Oh, look at that picture. There's another R there. Sorry, I have to edit all these R's out. But that's you just doing kind of a little really deep squat with baby. But then here we got week 2, and you're doing a split squat with a dumbbell and a baby on your front. That's week 2. So what's the deal? Are you, obviously you're superhuman, we know that, but are the guidelines a little bit too strict with regards to just body weight exercises in the first, no body weight exercise until 6 weeks onwards?
So, I mean, again, we kind of have to remind that disclaimer, everyone's experience is going to be different. When you're going to start again with some real exercise, it's going to really depend on how your birth goes as well. I had the most straightforward home birth possible. I didn't really have a long labor at all, especially being a first baby. So, I had no issues whatsoever. I was up on my feet walking the afternoon of the birth. I think the first day that I went into the gym was day 6. And what I did was just sitting on a bike for 15 minutes. I had the sling with the baby, and then I did a few pelvic floor exercises. And then, week two, I started doing some lunges, some really light over presses. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I spoke to somebody that specializes in pre and postnatal exercise. Her name is Christina Previtt from the Barbell Mamas. She's Canadian, based in US now. So I did a consultation with her because she's a weightlifter as well. She's been around CrossFit, weightlifting, powerlifting, and she's doing a PhD in special population. She works with pregnant athletes and geriatric patients as well. So I had her, give me some pointers, how to start again, what to look out for, which symptoms I would have to be aware of, because they could have indicated that things weren't going as well as they should have with my rehab. But I was lucky, everything went really well. So I just started progressively overloading. I think at week 2 I started with empty barbell, and then I built from there. Again, I'm super comfortable with a barbell. I'm super comfortable with weights. I know what I'm doing. I'm a strength coach, osteopath, sports therapist. So this is not probably going to be the experience of most people. In terms of, natural birth, vaginal birth versus cesarean, it's gonna change a little bit, but again, I think that the overall principles remain the same. Is how you're feeling, and start with something really small, check how you're feeling, make sure that like the bleeding doesn't get worse. That's one of the symptoms that you need to look out for. And if everything is going well, every 2-3 days try something, a little bit more, and eventually you'll be back in the gym, you'll be back training and doing what you're enjoying.
Brilliant. I like the way, I mean, the key words there, which you've mentioned a couple of times, was progression and also listening to your body. And they're two skills which somebody, if they haven't done exercise, then they might not have. One of the advantages of exercise and experience is you learn to read, and you notice every single change, the highs and the lows. And also you have a clearer way of progressing. So I guess that's where a professional really helps. They can give you that external feedback and watch out for things, keep asking you.
And, the weakness you feel post-birth is something that I would have never expected. I remember, I think it was week 2 or 3, I was in the gym. There was a barbell on a rack at like a bed set up for bench pressing. So it was more or less belly height. And I had to take it on the floor because I wanted to do some empty barbell deadlifts. And I remember struggling lifting it off because it was that awkward angle. And I was like, oh my God, it's only 20 kilos, it's only a barbell. With my deadlift and my numbers, it was shocking. So that should give some indication to people and women, like if your best pre-pregnancy was lifting that 8-kilo kettlebell, maybe you have to do 2 or 3 months of body weight only and really tiny weights, because it depends where your best was before, and it's something that we would do with any injury.
Yeah.
From there, same principle, a little bit more every time.
I can imagine that. I mean, that's something which you bring through with your Instagram photos, is the different emotions. You described it as a roller coaster. So I imagine, it's not all happy roses if you have being the sort of person who deadlifted and squatted and huge amounts, because it must be really frustrating. You must think, what's going on? This isn't me. But it's interesting.
Something so new, and you do feel alien, in your body. It doesn't feel like it's you, and it can be really frustrating for sure. It can be scary because you start thinking, oh my God, am I ever going to be able to do this again? And the time, I noticed that really since having the baby, the time wraps in a really weird way. It goes so fast because I can't believe that she's already 6 months, and at the same time it feels like it's going so slowly and I'm never progressing. It's such a roller coaster.
On the screen here, again, if you listen to the podcast and you're enjoying this content, then I do recommend you come along to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel, because you can see the videos and the photos and that, and Sonia gently rocking baby away, because I think there's sleep happening now.
Yeah, trying to get her to sleep.
But yeah, there's a picture week 3 with that 20k barbell on your shoulders and the caption "frustrating" at the top. And I like the way also you in your photos you've compared this post-pregnancy experience quite a lot to, it could be any stage in your life, it could be any injury, and you've kind of drawn that parallel with whatever the reason is, you've had to take a step back or sideways, and you've got to gently ease yourself in and don't beat yourself up about it. I like the way you did that, because suddenly you're not just talking to moms, you're talking to everybody. I like that parallel you drew. Was that something which you just thought of one day and thought, wow, this is what it's like coming back from an injury? It's the same thing.
I mean, as I said at the beginning, I didn't want to turn into, everything is just about pregnancy. And, to me, pregnancy is just, your body changes and you are in a new situation and you have to adapt, and, you may still want to lift and you need to find a way. And it's the same when somebody's injured. And I'm sure that, I've been injured as well in the past. The emotions are really similar, especially if you're used to something like CrossFit, where, it's a class environment, it's a community, you do things together, and then suddenly you can't really take part, at least not for the first couple of months. And, you suddenly feel kind of a bit isolated. So it's the same when you're injured. Like, you can't jump straight into a class maybe that you like doing, like a body pump or spinning, or even your running club. For runners, you may have to restart doing 1K, and your running clubs run 5 to 10 every time, and you can't go along, so the feeling will be the same.
Yeah, very good parallel. I like that. You've been through frustrating. Oh, we need to go to the other photo now. Let's get rid of that. So many photos we have to put into 2 folders. Let's hide that, and let's bring on.
I see that there is a question there from Becky as well, and
Becky
it's a really interesting one.
So Becky says, have you felt any pressure to maintain the training regime because of your profession?
I would say yes, to an extent. It makes you feel like if you want to be lazy or you don't want to exercise, you're like, oh, but I should show something, because that is what I believe in. I believe that you should move and you should exercise. And I have to say, it's not been easy for me, because it's me and her most of the time, most of the day. So finding the time to even just make it to the gym. I don't live close to the gym I own, and most gyms you can't bring your baby. Training at home is not something that I'm good at. So yeah, there is a little bit of pressure. And I think as a competitive athlete as well, sometimes I felt a little bit like uneasy when because the first thing people will ask you is like, are you going to compete again? Are you going to go back? And it's difficult because you want to. I do want to. There's definitely a big goal that, I didn't manage to reach pre-pregnancy that I would want to reach. But at the same time, I don't know. And when they do ask, sometimes I do feel a little bit of that pressure. It's like, oh, people expect me to, or they want to see me doing that. So am I?
Excellent question, Becky. Just to pre-warn you that when it comes to the round table on the Wednesday in the STA Theatre, at Therapy Expo. Becky's going to be in the front row, chucking out questions like this continuously.
Bring
Great
them on, Becky. We like questions.
Brilliant. So yeah, hard. We got scary. That was an interesting adjective to use. When I've got this, I thought that was quite a good photo there of you doing like a above head clean and that. So why scary? What made it scary for you?
I think scary on two fronts. One being some exercises, because your body feels so different and you're like, oh my god, this is weird, I don't know what I'm doing. And on the other front, what I was saying earlier is that question, will I be able to do this again? Will I be able to go back to where I want to go? Especially when you are, I think, a more high level athlete. Or even in CrossFit, you know, I was what we call an RX athlete. I could do everything, you know, the high gymnastics, the heavy weights, and now they are still, you know, far away, even at 6 months postpartum. So you ask yourself, am I going to be able to? And those were my favorite bits. So if I'm not going to be able to, you know, it's a bit scary.
Great. And I guess, like you say, there's that parallel that makes you understand how an athlete or just a recreational runner who's suddenly not able to do that park run on a Sunday morning, they're going to be thinking, oh my god, am I ever going to do that again? And they go through that period of kind of grieving, and that could delay their recovery. If they're told by somebody, oh, that's going to be, you might never going to run again, that's like a serious shock to the body, and it could slow down their natural recovery. So, and
that's something that, you know, a lot of lifter get told is like, oh, you're never going to lift the same weights. You're never going to lift heavy because, you know, your pelvic floor is not going to be able to sustain that. And it's a lot of, you know, BS, because you can, and there is tons of athletes doing that. The current 63 kilos, I think, world champion in powerlifting, she had twins. She was back on a platform, I think 6 months post, which, you know, I'm super jealous of, but of course she had different setup at home. But I think a year or maybe, you know, a year and a half after having kids, she goes and wins worlds in powerlifting. And there's lots of other moms that come back stronger.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't hear enough about them because we've just got the latest Kardashian child or something splattered all over. And you could replace Kardashian with any famous family influencer. I'm not picking on the Kardashians before someone writes in. But yeah, sadly, we don't get to hear about these superhero mums. Not enough. It's getting a bit better. Maybe.
Not enough, yeah.
Not enough, definitely. Rowing machine at week 5. I love that one. There's you doing a chin up and you've entitled it Fun. Which is amazing. Week 5 and you're doing a chin up. That's like, technically you're still not supposed to do a body weight exercise until, mind you, chin up's a body weight exercise. Fair enough.
Yeah, it is. Again, I was checking for symptoms. I didn't really have any coning. I only had a little bit of doming at that point, which is not as as much of a problem. So I could start training some body weight pull-ups. Actually, at that stage, I couldn't do a pull-up yet, only one chin-up. And that was the fun bit in that video.
Yeah. I did love that video, and you can't see it on the photo. But again, if you go to the Instagram account, because you come down from that and you can't do another one, but you're smiling because you can see it's a stage of steps. And, you know, it's like, I love that. It's a really nice smile.
And it's been so interesting, you know, the recovery, because it would go like in like kind of jumping. Like I will have one day where I remember I tried toe to bar. So it's when you're swinging and you're bringing your toes to the bar, and I just couldn't get the swing. I couldn't absolutely get anywhere close. I didn't really train it, and I think 2 weeks later I suddenly did a set of 5 unbroken, and it's so interesting and something so different from, you know, what I ever experienced in the past with other injuries.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Because I guess when you're at that elite level in your training, you're less likely, your progression is going to be more linear. But when you take it down to like starting from scratch again, then your progression is going to be more kind of less linear. It's going to be jumps and falls. And as an elite athlete, you're not used to seeing that because you're already at your peak. But that gives us something to think about with recreational people to explain. There will be times when you fall down and you can't do 2 press-ups, and then suddenly the next day you're doing 8. So it's interesting. Put yourself in that
think it's not just it's not just elite athletes, it's anyone really. When you first get injured or your body changes through pregnancy, as I was saying earlier, is alien, and you feel you can't do something, but the strength was there. The nervous system connections are still there, so it's just a matter of practicing, and sometimes not even practicing it too much, like it's trying, leave it alone and try again, and suddenly you can do it because your body remembers. I think I have another video actually where I went into that a little bit more in detail, and your body remembers. So it's just be patient, don't freak out, because it's so easy to freak out and say, oh, I can't do this, but don't freak out, and eventually your body will come back
to you. Strong
to
body. It's lovely. And on that caption, people listen to the podcast, it says it's a true roller coaster, whether you are coming back from injury, time off for life, work, or pregnancy. A roller coaster, indeed. What we got? Week 4, breastfeeding picture. That tied in really nice. I mean, it's a beautiful photo anyway. But I read as well, as I was doing a little bit of research, it's important to realize, I think I read that breastfeeding can take up to like 400, 500 calories. So it's something that mums need to be aware of in terms of maybe increasing nutritional input or something. Is it something that affected you, or you noticed that you needed to eat a little bit more whilst you're doing exercise? Or
I'm eating all day, every day, all day. I'm eating so much. I mean, I've always been a big eater even before. But yeah, that's another thing that, I had to keep an eye on, especially going back to fitness early on and going back to more high intensity workouts as we do in CrossFit, is making sure that I still produce enough milk. There's not a lot of research out there, because we know there's never enough research, especially on women, but a lot of anecdotal evidence says that women can see a drop into their milk production if they exercise too much and don't eat enough. And it can be difficult at the beginning because the first few months, you look different, and especially from somebody like me, where I was so lean and muscly pre-pregnancy, it's challenging seeing yourself like that, and it's slow. But again, that's something that changed all of a sudden, like a week 5.5 months in. I was eating well and just eating to support my breastfeeding as well, and I felt I wasn't changing, and then all of a sudden my body changed again. And again, it's about that patience, but yeah, you need to eat to support your breastfeeding.
Great advice. And image as well can be so, I mean, we've mentioned a few times the emotional stress of this, and people forget maybe that we talk about physical stress and intensity of exercise, but emotional stress is a big one as well. Do you have days where you think, I'm really emotionally stressed, my glass is practically empty, I'm not going to do that workout? Or does that never happen?
Yeah, there's been many days where I really wanted to work out, and at the same time I really didn't want to work out. I miss working out more. At the moment, I'm not really managing more than 1 to 2 sessions because of some changes in what I'm doing for work as well. But yeah, some days you're a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. And one thing that has been, I think, difficult for me, I mean, my baby, she's a really good sleeper at night, even though she was up late tonight. But she's always been quite good at night, but she doesn't really nap for a long time. So, pre-pregnancy, I expect, I'll do some workouts when she naps, or I work when she naps. And it's something that I can't do really. And I had to, come up with other ways. And then if you're exclusively breastfeeding, especially at the beginning, you'll have to stop mid-workout because she wants to be held and she wants food. So yeah, it's definitely different.
This is the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm sure, I mean, if I was a mum at home and wasn't had never really got into exercising, I would imagine myself listening to this and screaming, when the hell do you find time to exercise? As if I haven't got enough, cleaning nappies, doing this, blah, blah, blah. What advice? I mean, I imagine you can understand that because it's time consuming having a baby, but have you got any tips for somebody who does think, I have not got any time to exercise, don't even talk to me about it?
Honestly, I'm still trying to unpack that for myself because, of course, things changed and I still have to find a good routine. But there's a few things I would say. First of all, is if you go on social media and you see all these, women exercising a lot, remember that they may have some type of privilege that you don't have. They may have their family around them. They may have a partner that lives with them and you may be by yourself. They may be able to pay for a nanny straight away. There's a lot of things that may be behind that person training that you don't see, so don't compare yourself to somebody else. That's the real first thing that I really had to work on for myself as well, because knowing other athletes that I've been pregnant recently and seeing them, coming back quicker makes me feel sometimes I'm not doing enough. But my situation is really different from, the situation that other people have. And then, as I said, one or twice is the maximum I've been managing so far in terms of training. And I do have some privilege. I have a gym I can go to, I can bring my baby, and sometimes there's somebody that will look after the baby while I squeeze in a 30 minutes workout. Now that I'm not going to be able to do that, my what I try to stick to is really walking a lot every day. So I try to eat at least those 10,000 or 12,000 steps a day, especially now that the weather is still quite nice. Just with the pram, I go for a walk. I'm considering actually getting more into running, getting a running pram, so I can squeeze in a few more sessions that way. And then it's just don't feel guilty. Try something, see if it works, and it doesn't need to be full on. And don't think that you suddenly have to go somewhere for an hour class. Even 10 minutes of something in front of your computer, following a video or doing some squats is more than enough to start with. And then as things progress, as the baby grows, and you can do more and more.
Great advice. I love the fact that you draw attention to, don't look at all the Instagram feeds and don't judge yourself, compare yourself to what you see, this imaginary life probably someone else is portraying. That's really, really important. Otherwise, you're in that, a lot of people in that state of mind where all they need is one reason not to do anything or start anything, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything. So you need to separate yourself from negativity and people around you saying don't do anything. It's so important not to judge, compare yourself to others. And obviously it depends very much on the factors and the people around you and the support and that. But like you say, I think I saw Dr. Claire Minshall posting something the other day with yet again more research showing that you don't necessarily have to do a lot of exercise a week to make a change to your health. It doesn't have to be, because that's the other thing. People think, I've got no time to go down the gym every day, I'm not going to do anything. But it's kind of a straw man, isn't it? Because no one's saying you do have to go down the gym every day.
It's that all of nothing kind of mentality.
Exactly.
And it is difficult. I struggle with that as well, especially because I like certain type of training. I like my barbells. I like, the high intensity workouts. And if I don't do that, I feel like I haven't really done anything. So what's the point of doing it? And I don't particularly like training by myself as well or at home. So those are all barriers, but a lot of them we create them for ourselves. So it's really trying to be mindful of, okay, what is a real problem and what is an obstacle I am creating for myself, and then from there taking really tiny steps. So that's why I was saying, sometimes the 10 squats every day, start with that, for a week, and then if you feel better and you feel good moving, you may want to do more. Or walks, those are probably more beneficial, especially the first few months, than trying to adhere to any crazy routine or forcing yourself to go to the gym when you feel that you don't have that energy, either emotionally or physically.
Yeah, beautiful. I
So,
love
yeah.
that. Tiny steps. Yeah, amazing. I remember when it was my second one actually, and I say that I always feel guilty, like a privileged white male who didn't have a baby at all. But when I had my baby, I remember feeding him and little one, and I was that close to producing like a series of videos which dads can do in the bedroom whilst trying to put baby to sleep, like Soleus lifts, heel lifts and things, and other exercises you can do, stability exercises, all these sort of things you can do whilst you're holding the baby as a weight. And then I realized, one, probably a lot of dads are not going to be in that mental space to actually be thinking about doing exercise for runners when they're trying to get baby to sleep. Only I am, because I'm geeky. And then two, I mean, the proof of the pudding was I was actually thinking about making these videos in the first place. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. No one's going to be interested in being able to do this, because it all depends on who you are and how you work, which reminds me of what Dr. Gary Mendoza was saying about understanding your clients' obstacles, like you put it. If you're expecting to get behavior change, you've got to have a great pair of ears. His expression was, some people need a really good listening to, which I think is beautiful. It should be a t-shirt. He's going to be at the Expo.
But, again, with the training, and it's not as easy when, the baby is really small and really young, but as they grow, I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to go and exercise away from the baby or when they're sleeping. And sometimes actually we don't need that. We may be able to do some exercise around the baby. Like, I know that I could do a 10 minutes circuit, and my baby being awake on the floor, and I can do burpees over her and kiss her every burpee, and she'll be laughing and she'll be enjoying that as well. Sometimes even when I go in the gym, if I don't have anybody that can look after her, I'll use her as a weight. And I think that is actually really good, because they'll grow up being around you, exercising, and you prioritizing your health and movement, and you going to the gym if you manage to. And that's really important, because we know that too many people don't do enough sport and they don't do enough activity growing up. So having that model, even if it's once a week or once every now and then, is going to be really important. So don't feel that you have to separate yourself from your kid to get something in.
Yeah, that's great advice, and a really nice, healthy perspective. In fact, as Becky Carroll says, it's all about perspective. Yeah. Very wise. Great. Well, look, wow, 8:58. That went quickly, 58 minutes. Some really gems of information then. It is your personal experience, but intertwined in that experience, I think we've managed to open up some doors to ideas and explore opportunities and all sorts of things. Obviously, everything we've said tonight isn't guidelines which everybody should follow. There's no such thing. We reiterate, as Sonia said at the beginning, that none of this is to replace the medical advice you could get from hold on, what's this? Catherine Reimer coming in at 8:59 in the evening. What? Let's just put an apology up on screen. This is the live show. This is why it's good being live. Catherine Reimer. Sorry, I've joined extremely late tonight. We have Catherine. Hi, Glenn. I'm one of the reps from Northeastern Yorkshire. Oh, she's coming. Bless you, Catherine. Catherine's going to be at Therapy Expo. Catherine was on this show last week, actually, in our Have Your Say. So yes, anyway, it's been lovely, Sonia, listening to your experience, and thank you for sharing what you did in such a positive way. You're going to be, just to remind people who are listening, you're going to be at Therapy Expo.
Yes.
On the Thursday. You're giving 2 presentations in the morning, I think. Yeah. But most importantly, obviously, is the Wednesday morning appearance in the STA Theatre, where you're going to be joining Anna Maria Mazzieri and the ladies from Women in Sports Therapy podcast, so Dr. Fiona Higgs and Deborah Thurlow-Rowley, for a roundtable chat. I've organised 4 microphones, and we're going to let you guys chat about being women in sports therapy, which I'm really looking forward to. It's revolutionary. It's going to be beautiful. And obviously, the audience, the seating area around there, I'm not sure what Dr. Fiona Higgs and Deborah have got kind of organised, but I think it's going to be interactive, asking questions to the audience and all sort of stuff for half an hour. So thank you for joining that. It's going to be lovely seeing you 4 talking, and I think everyone's around there is going to feel really privileged, because you've all got such diverse, different experience and backgrounds. It's going to be amazing. What a great idea!
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I think so. And also, are we going to be meeting Alia that day? I hear Alia's coming with you to Birmingham then?
Most likely, yes, because I haven't managed to leave her for more than a few hours yet.
Oh, wow. Well, that's going to be fantastic for us, and maybe not so great for you. Becky Carroll has said, thank you, Sonia, and congratulations with becoming a
Thank
mummy.
you.
It's a great club. It's a great club. Okay, people. Well, look, it's 9 o'clock. Sonia, if you could hang around just for a couple more minutes while I just close down the live lounge. Thank you for joining us, people. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you want to leave any comments or any feedback, or if indeed, if you've got any questions for our guest, Sonia Fierro, then what's the best way to contact you, Sonia? Is it through your website or Instagram? Or what do you think?
Yeah, Instagram is always a quick one. I'm Sonia.recoverstronger. So yeah, you can find me there, either comments or DMs, and I'll be happy to answer some questions. And I said this to Matt as well before we started. I give him a couple of names of people that I actually contacted when I had to return to training post birth, and the pelvic floor therapist that I'm still seeing. So if people want to seek out more experienced therapists, they can.
That's amazing. That's really kind of you. And that'll all go into the show notes. And remember, if you want to see the show notes, then you can either go to the sta.co.uk, which is where I paste it all down. I've got into the habit now of putting it into the YouTube feed as well. I update the YouTube feed once I've put some words down on paper. And also, if you're on Podbean, then that's the host of the podcast. So they've got all the show notes and the links as well. So there's 3 places for you to find all these links we're talking about. Right, that is it. So next week, we continue inviting speakers from Therapy Expo. We're going to have the pleasure of spending an hour with Liz Bailey with a Y, who's been on the show before. Liz is a fond favourite of the STA. Doing really fantastically well on social media in terms of just raising awareness for working with dancers in particular. And Liz is going to be presenting on the Thursday at 10 o'clock to 10:30, The Dancer's Foot. So it's going to be an amazing presentation. I've listed bits. She's going to be with us next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to join us, then just head to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel at 8 o'clock in the evening. And that's where you'll find us for the hour. So once again, thank you for joining us, people in the live lounge. Really appreciate you giving up your time to come along. Thank you to my wonderful guest, Sonia Fierro. And thank you for Alia for being such a delight as well. And yeah, take care, people. And hopefully we'll see some of you live next week. Goodbye.
Thank you.